Yeah, in the global space now, we see UK inflation shows sign of easing in October. The annual consumer price index rose by 3.6%, down from 3.8% in September, the weakest pace since May. The monthly gain was 0.4%, with core inflation, that's excluding food, energy, at 3.4% annually. The softer data raises fresh hopes that the Bank of England may be poised to cut interest rates in December, a move markets have been waiting for the longest time now. All right, let's take it on to Asia now. China is escalating its economic pressure on Japan by announcing a suspension of imports of Japanese seafood, reversing a previous partial easing of restrictions. The move follows rising diplomatic tensions between the two nations, including public remarks from Japanese leadership concerning Taiwan Strait, and comes at a time when bilateral trade relations are already under strain. For investors, the development signals greater geopolitical risk in the region, with potential ripple effects for Japan's export sector for supply chains reliant on Japanese seafood. And some company news now. Shares of Xiaomi Corporation plunged to a 7-month low after the Chinese electronics giant issued a price warning for its smartphones amid rising global memory chip costs. The Q3 revenue climbed around 2.3% to 113.1 billion yuan. The result missed analyst estimates. On the plus side, Xiaomi's net profits soared by 80.9% to 11.3 billion yuan, and its electric vehicle division reported its first profitable quarter. Now we see Donald Trump and Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman have struck a deal in Riyadh. Riyadh is pledging to boost its U.S. investment commitments to nearly $1 trillion, according to the White House. Let's talk more now to Maria Bird, Channel TV correspondent in Washington. Hello, Maria. Great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So what concrete projects or sectors are expected to absorb this nearly $1 trillion Saudi investment, and how realistic is the timeline for deploying that scale of capital?
Well, I think you bring up some great questions here. Typically, you see this type of investment, if there's going to be this type of investment, in purchasing of arms. So in previous years, in the previous administration of President Trump, there was also a investment that the Saudis said they would be making into the U.S. Economy. It didn't quite go to scale of what they initially thought that it would be. It was at that time close to $400 billion. And so the $1 trillion, as you mentioned, is it really possible to have that type of investment? It really depends on their buying power, one, and it also depends on exactly what they're looking to purchase. But typically, this could be more in the defense industry, really around arms and American goods. And so we shall see. I think it'll be something that we'll have to see how quickly they begin to purchase and at what scale they begin to purchase and what sector they're looking at. But we are looking to potentially see, the estimate is that they could be looking at potentially purchasing in the arms space. And if that's the case, then we probably will see a couple billion, maybe 50 to 100 billion up front. But to get to 1 trillion, there'll be quite a bit of purchasing that will happen in a pretty short period of time.
All right, so, given there's limited detail on the schedule, what are the possible risks or conditions that could derail or delay this commitment?
Well, obviously it's going to first depend on how quickly the Saudis kind of request those goods, begin to figure out exactly what they're looking to purchase. So that's going to be the number one piece there. And once we identify the types of goods that are being purchased, I think that will depend on manufacturing and production time. And depending on the types of arms, if they do stick in the area of kind of the defense sector, depending on the types of arms will depend on the amount of time for production. Typically, certain types of rifles, ammunition, things like that are readily available. But if looking for other types of more intellect related around kind of what the defense industry has to take some time and build, and potentially that could require additional technological or engineering processes and equipment that takes, that will require corporate America to also obviously be involved in this through the development process. So it's really going to be clearly indicated by what they decide to purchase.
All right, let's pivot to the government shutdown in the U.S. That's over now. What economic damage did the shutdown inflict? Looking at lost GDP, operations delayed, confidence, and what recovery efforts are needed at this time?
So as you mentioned, we don't know the full impact. Obviously, we're estimating that the impact is somewhere between 7 to 14 billion, which is quite a bit of a span there. But due to this being the longest shutdown in American history, the types of impacts that it had on furloughed and also employees that had been laid off, and part of the bill that was put in place was having those individuals paid once they came back to work, and to actually bring some people back to work that were actually let go previously. The other challenge that we obviously experienced was what was considered the SNAP benefits. I'm sure people heard about SNAP benefits were lost. Individuals that were getting subsidized food security dollars from the government, that was reduced and that was cut off for a period of time, so having to recoup those dollars. And so now that we're in a position where individuals are being repaid for the time that they were not working, that is going to have a tremendous impact. Obviously, individuals were not able to pay bills and different things. That's one of the things that was an outpouring and an outcome of this federal government shutdown, was the identification of how many people actually were not financially secured, even with a job or with those additional federal government dollars to support them with food. And so the governments and many local governments had to put forth in place, whether it was food banks or different measures to ensure people were able to continue just having some basic necessities. So the cost has been great. And then, as you mentioned, the confidence, I think that Americans were reeling for those over 42 days and now are trying to just get back on their feet.
All right, thank you so much, Maria. We'll keep tracking progress there. Hopefully, you all out of the woods when it comes to the shutdown. Thank you so much. And meanwhile, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, they've announced that the Producer Price Index for September, that will be released November 25th. The import and export price indexes for September will be issued on December 3rd, according to the Bureau. These economic data releases were delayed due to the federal government shutdown. All right, that's it on the global business space now. Back to Ini.
As we close